1 second. Yeah, okay, so everybody's on muted, all right?
All right.
So, okay, so go ahead. We're going to start our meeting, and Vijay, go ahead and start.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Mid-America IT Connect event. This is our 33rd event in the last 3.5 years. And we have had great speakers in the past, and today is no exception. So we have an amazing speaker, Adam Heckman, who is the Director of Corporate Affairs in the Microsoft Philanthropy Division at Microsoft Corporation. And he's going to be talking about the Microsoft AI for Good programs. And the format of the session is going to be Adam will talk, and then afterwards we will have a Q&A session, and then finally wrap up. So please welcome Adam Heckman. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay.
Calvin wanted to...
okay. Yeah, so I'm going to do kind of an introduction because we have also, so this meeting is joint with several other societies that are here also tonight. So besides the Mid-America Club IT Connect, we also have IEEE Computer Society Chicago chapter and also ACM Chicago. So to the members of those societies, welcome to our first totally online meeting. Okay, next slide, please. Adam, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, you should be seeing it. No?
Yeah,
okay, great.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yes, good. Thank you. So, like Vijay said, this is also a Mid-America Club IT Connect. So if you're not familiar, Mid-America Club is a private business and social club on the 80th floor in the Aon building. Has a very, very good 360-degree panoramic view. We have an IT club called IT Connect, and we do these type of monthly meetings. Hence, we have one for tonight. The chair is Vijay, who just spoke earlier, and I am the vice chair. More information about the club you can see below. Next slide, please. Adam, can you go next slide, please?
Do you not see it?
Yeah, we do see
Okay,
it.
and we also have, yes, so we also have members from IEEE Computer Society Chicago. So thank you for those people that are here tonight. If you're not familiar, IEEE Computer Society is a society within IEEE organization. We are the Chicago chapter of the IEEE Computer Society. And similar to Mid-America Club IT Connect, we also deal with software, hardware, computing, AI, big data, cloud computing. So I'm the chair of this society, and our vice chair is Gina Martinez. We have the following channels. So if you want to know when is our next meeting, please follow one of these channels. Next slide, please. Adam, next slide.
Yeah, there seems to be a delay between when I see
And
it.
finally, we also have members from ACM Chicago. Okay, so thank you for members of ACM Chicago that are here tonight. We have several of our officers here tonight. Greg Newmark, I see here. We also have Valentina Kiviaga, and we also have Ron Greenberg. And I myself is part of ACM Chicago. So ACM is kind of similar to IEEE. It's another organization that deals with computing technology and topics. So we are the Chicago chapter of the Association for Computing Machinery. We also hold monthly meetings as well. This is our first one that is online. And we have also our channel. So if you want to know our next ACM Chicago meeting event, you can go to our web, our meetup page. I think a lot of people from ACM Chicago have joined because of the meetup. We also have a Facebook page, Twitter, and LinkedIn. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so tonight, we're very happy to have Adam Heckman from Microsoft. So just a little bit of a short story as to how I know Adam. So actually, if people know me, my day job, besides doing this type of volunteer work for ACM, Mid-America, and IEEE Computer Society Chicago, my main job is a machine learning researcher at BMW Technology Corporation. And actually, I also, on the aside, I also do teaching. So I'm an adjunct professor at DePaul University in downtown Chicago. And I teach a course which is called Data Analysis and Regression. And last year, Adam was one of the students there, very bright student, I might add as well too. So that's how I got to know him and his work. And so I invited him to come to do our meeting for tonight. So thank you, Adam, for accepting to do the meeting tonight. And you can see here, Adam is working in Microsoft's philanthropy team. Before, he was a director of Microsoft Technology Center in the Chicago office, which is in the Aon. If you're not familiar, there's a Microsoft in Aon. So before we start with Adam, I'd like to have everybody to please mute your microphones. So mute your microphone, and we will have this talk recorded afterwards. So if you have registered, I will send you an email, and it will also be available on our social media channels as well for each of the societies. All right, and so without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Adam Heckman. Adam,
Thank you.
The stage, the floor, wherever is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor. There seems to be a little bit of a lag between when I can see the slide and when you all can see the slide. So Alvin or VJ, maybe when you can see the slide change, you'll just give me the thumbs up. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be talking to you today about AI for Good. Before we talk about the program itself, I want to set some of the context for why we have a program called AI for Good. Are you seeing our belief in AI slide? Alvin?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
We believe that AI, artificial intelligence, has the power to amplify human ingenuity and also extend our capabilities so we can achieve more. But it can't be the purview of a select few. It has to be democratized if you want to see it transform industries, make us more productive. In my role, help solve society's biggest challenges. And every day you all see how it's improving our lives, and you understand its promise probably better than anybody else. So today what I'm going to do is go through our vision for AI for Good. And I'm going to spend some time throwing out a lot of examples to get your thinking going, and then I'll show you where you can find some resources. Before we really get into it, can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So first, let me say right at the beginning that Microsoft's committed to ensuring the responsible development of AI and the responsible use of AI. We want to see people around the world be able to use AI to solve previously intractable societal challenges, spanning sustainability, accessibility, humanitarian assistance. Our interest is to see that it gets in the hands of many people who are doing smart things for our planet and for the people in it. But you have to do this in a way that preserves timeless values. Values like fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. Or as a couple of our executives have stated, ultimately the question is not only what computers can do, it's what computers should do. So AI for Good is a program about what artificial intelligence should do. So AI for Good is our $125 million commitment to empower those working around the world to solve humanitarian issues, to advance global sustainability, and to amplify human capability. The initiative is made up of 5 programs that I'm going to go over: AI for Earth, AI for Accessibility, AI for Humanitarian Action, AI for Cultural Heritage, and the newest one is AI for Health. And this is part of our overarching effort to ensure that artificial intelligence is used to advance society. And the idea of AI for good is putting the Microsoft Cloud and AI technologies in the hands of those working to address some of society's biggest challenges. The program allows us to provide technology, resources, sometimes funding, and expertise to empower those working to solve humanitarian issues and create a more sustainable and accessible world. Now, to kick this off, I wanted to show you a very brief video, but you can tell me if it's not, if the quality is not good, then we will skip through it. Bear with me 1 second.
Like never before, our world is changing. Faced with some of our most critical challenges, human ingenuity triumphs. Today, the Microsoft AI for Good initiative enables a person with an idea to accelerate it, to give it scale, to create change for the better.
Microsoft AI will help our work by empowering people to take action.
Through AI for Earth, photos can now help save a species. With AI for accessibility, the visual world becomes an audible experience. Sanitary and peanut butter. And with AI for humanitarian action, first responders can target their efforts faster than ever before.
It feels humbling to know that I'm actually helping another human being.
Today, we are empowering others to forge new paths, to fight famine before a crisis strikes, and protect ecosystems by identifying forests down to a single tree.
We have the forest that we have today. We can't change that. What we can change is the future.
Microsoft AI is fueling some of the most passionate and creative people on our planet, with the help of citizen scientists, to make change once thought impossible real.
AI will know and understand and model based on the child interaction.
AI unleashes new possibilities to impact our world. And together, we're not just dreaming it, we're doing it.
I'm going to actually talk about some of the examples that you saw in that video, but let's just charge right into it and take a look at the first program, AI for Earth. The AI for Earth empowers people and organizations to solve environmental challenges through artificial intelligence using Microsoft.
Adam, can you speak a little bit louder? Your voice is a little bit soft.
Oh, sure. Is this better?
Yes, thank you.
So the AI for Earth program, we've committed over $50 million over the next 5 years to put AI technology in the hands of people around the world who are working to protect the planet.
I don't hear any voices.
You don't hear my voice?
What's happening? Oh, you are? Okay.
Alvin, can everybody else hear me?
I can hear you. Everybody else?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
If you can hear.
Yes,
Yeah, we hear fine.
Okay.
we can hear you fine, Adam.
Yes, I hear you.
So these are the focus areas. The AI for Earth program awards grants to projects that address 4 areas that are vital to building a sustainable future. The first one is agriculture. People need to eat. To feed the world's rapidly growing population, farmers have to produce more food on less arable land with reduced resources and a lower amount of environmental impact. So AI can help people efficiently monitor the health of farms in real time, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The second area is water. We need water to survive, but in the next 2 decades, the demand for fresh water for human consumption, agriculture, hygiene, it's predicted to dramatically outpace supply. And AI is being used to model the Earth's water supply to help us to conserve and protect fresh water. Next is biodiversity. We need to slow down species extinction, which is happening at alarming rates, and it's driving the decay of key ecosystem services like pollination that humans depend on. AI can help people accelerate the discovery, the monitoring, the protection of biodiversity across the planet. And then lastly, we need to plan for climate change, extreme weather events, rising sea levels, higher global temperatures, increased ocean acidity. These all threaten human health, infrastructure, and the natural systems that we rely on for life itself. So AI can provide people with more accurate climate predictions to help reduce the potential impact on communities. Here are some of the examples of the projects that we supported and whose resources you can access. Let's take a look at a few of these. This one is FarmBeats. But if we have time at the end, I'll show you a video of this, but by 2050, the demand for food is expected to outpace production by over 70%. So farmers need access to better data on their lands if they want to maximize efficiency and yield, while at the same time reducing the number of resources and environmental impact. The problem is gathering data from farms is very difficult, particularly due to low technology adoption rates by farmers, especially in the developing world where access to technology is often limited. And then in farms in general, out in the fields, access to broadband is limited. So FarmBeats uses Microsoft's machine learning algorithms, along with low-cost sensors, drones, and other data to deliver actionable insights to farmers. And we believe that data coupled with the farmer's knowledge about his or her farm can help increase farm productivity while reducing the environmental resources and out-of-pocket costs. And again, I have a video on this that we'll talk about. This one was really interesting. It's called Project Premonition. And Project Premonition began as an effort to use AI to detect and track emerging infectious diseases. And as an AI for Earth project, researchers are extending this and applying that same technology to an issue that's perhaps just as complicated as public health, and that's biodiversity. So think about it this way: conservationists need fast, reliable data on the biodiversity in each area, but gathering samples in a traditional way is a very tedious and time-consuming task. So what Project Premonition does is it uses mosquitoes as field biologists. Mosquitoes become the sensor. We analyze the blood that mosquitoes take from animals in the environment and use that to glean valuable data. And to achieve this, we're developing drones that autonomously locate mosquito hotspots and robotic traps to collect the specimens, and then using cloud-scale genomics and machine learning algorithms to identify each animal bitten by that mosquito. And these advances make it possible to collect species data faster, to process genetic material more efficiently, and to very quickly derive insights that can help conservationists protect and conserve biodiversity. Next, we have iNaturalist. This is one that you can put on your phone today. I have it on my phone. Estimates show that without action, 38% of all species on Earth could be extinct by the end of the century. And as species die out, key ecosystem services that humans depend on will also collapse. For example, bees. Bees are responsible for pollinating 90% of the major crops like avocados, cherries, oranges. Well, as the bee populations shrink drastically worldwide, human food systems are also at work and at risk. So preventing species loss requires vast amounts of data on when and where plant, animal, and fungi species are occurring. But deploying trained observers out into the field to every corner of the world, that's just not possible. And so that's where iNaturalist comes in. iNaturalist is an app that was supported by the, I believe it was the California Academy of Science and the National Geographic Society. And it gives citizen scientists worldwide the ability to collect expert level wildlife observations. So I take this with me when I go to my secondary home in Michigan, which is out in the woods. I'll take a picture of a species, and then iNaturalist uses computer vision models to suggest the species depicted in the photo. And that provides a useful starting place for the observer which can then be confirmed by an experienced naturalist. So scientists and conservationists can take this data to see when populations are shifting, when pest invasions occur, how species are reacting to changing environments in real time. The next one you should see on the screen is land cover mapping, and I'm going to show you where to get the APIs for all of these. Data is the lifeblood of conservation efforts, and to protect complex ecosystems like watersheds, conservationists need accurate and precise spatial data. So real-time high-resolution land cover maps can guide conservation efforts, but creating these maps using available imagery and tracking changes over time, that requires complex algorithms and computing resources. So Microsoft partnered with the Chesapeake Conservancy to build a dynamic system for generating 1-meter resolution land cover data anywhere in the US. And I think you saw this in the video. Using algorithms on the Microsoft AI platform and then integrating the data into Esri's ArcGIS spatial mapping, we're able to create an accurate land cover map, giving conservationists access to regularly updated data with 900 times the information that was available before. So that was AI for Earth. Let's move on to our second program, AI for Accessibility. AI for Accessibility is our $25 million commitment to helping everybody, including people with disabilities, focus on daily life, employment, communication, and connection. And our goal is to make it easier for people like you to build smart, accessible tools to address the most impactful accessibility changes in these three areas. So let me show you some examples of these. What you should see on your screen right now is an example from the First Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt University. They're developing conversational tools that provide neurodiverse individuals job interviewing training, with the AI work being driven by the Robotics and Autonomous Systems Laboratory. The goal here is to provide real experiences with meaningful interactions tailored to the way that individuals process the information during an interview. The next one is an example of accessibility in daily life. This is the Massachusetts Eye and Ear. They're building services for people who are blind or have ultra low vision. So they have this app, it's called Supervision Search. Initially, what it allowed you to do was enter a keyword by voice or text, and then it would scan the surroundings for that object. So for example, if a person's allergic to almonds, he or she can use the app to find out if it's listed as an ingredient on a product. And then the app uses AI tools to scan the surroundings to look for this particular word. But that's only partially helpful. So the grant that we gave them was to extend that into wayfinding. To get where you need to be, there isn't always a word in the environment for you to zoom in on. So now the team is working to improve the app's ability to search everyday objects. So they're enhancing this Supervision Search app to use Microsoft's AI tools to spot objects in the real world. Specifically, we're starting with this one, which is spotting bus stop signs, train stop signs, and things like that for wayfinding. This one was out of Australia. This is a project that uses real-time brain signal processing for people who are living with epilepsy. So what happens here is that the user gets a warning by the AI looking at the brain signal about the likelihood of an epileptic seizure to strike anytime soon. And that gives the person with epilepsy enough time so that they can start to prepare for it and take precautions. This one here, Zyrobotics, this is an AI-driven reading fluency program for students with disabilities and diverse learners. So I'm gonna give you a few other examples of where we use custom speech models, but that's what's happening here. By creating custom speech models with Microsoft Cognitive Services and Azure Machine Learning, Readable Stories identifies when a student needs feedback, much like a therapist or a teacher would recognize and then provide. This one is called Inner Voice. this was a result of a grant that we made to iTherapy. What it does is it uses 3D avatars powered by Microsoft AI and facial recognition technology to recognize, or actually to create an interactive platform that helps connect the dots between language and facial expression. So this solves the issue that some children with autism may experience between assigning meaning to a dialogue in a social interaction based on facial expressions. Oops. This was an incredible project for people with disabilities that I should really show you the video on this one to understand what's happening. This is a project for people with disabilities that cause tremors and that cause trouble with neuromuscular control. So what it does is it captures and filters the signals that are sent to the nervous system and looks at how the commands are sent. So we have a colleague at Microsoft, I think she has Parkinson's, but it causes her hands to shake and she couldn't really write very well. But using this tool that would capture and filter the signal and reformat the signal into the muscles, she's able to write smoothly, and it's absolutely changed her life. This one is Seeing AI. This was my favorite for a few reasons. It's actually already 5 years old. We did this in 2015. We built this during an internal hackathon event. And if you have an iPhone, it's only on iOS right now. It's not available on Android yet, but the group came together from across the company to work on this idea to leverage our AI capabilities in computer vision for the blind and low vision community. So the app's called Seeing AI. It offers 9 channels or features ranging from, OCRing text in the physical world. So you can hover it over a menu and it'll say, okay, what do you want to see? Do you want to see the pizza, the pasta, the salads? It identifies products by intelligently scanning and recognizing them. Same thing with faces and emotions. A blind person can sit with his or her team and not only know who's sitting there with him or her, but also know the reactions to what's being said, being able to tell if that joke that they just told landed. The real reason I like this one is it was initiated by a guy on my team who's blind, and it's an excellent demonstration of how impactful an idea can be when people with disabilities are included in the design and the development process. Okay, next thing you should be seeing on your screen is AI for Humanitarian Action. This is our third AI for Good program. AI for Humanitarian Action is a $40 million program aimed at applying artificial intelligence to focus on disaster response, refugee and displaced people, human rights, and the needs of children. And we'll do this by working deeply with specific NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and humanitarian organizations with financial grants, technology investments, and the partnerships that combine our AI and data science skills with their know-how and these groups' core expertise. So these are the 4 focus areas that I'm going to go through: disaster response, needs of children, refugees and displaced peoples, and human rights. We're basically, these are some of the examples I'm going to go through. We're teaming up with experts in AI, data science, computer science, humanitarian relief, digital transformation, and pairing them with the organizations that are at the forefront of these issues. And the goal here is we want to accelerate the pace of AI projects that in turn can accelerate the pace of delivering reusable solutions around humanitarian assistance, and partnering with others then to expand and scale the initial projects. For example, I have a couple on disaster response. Nearly 1 billion people around the world don't have access to a stable food supply. And so obviously this has long-term social and economic development effects, including the health of future generations. So in partnership with the World Bank and with the United Nations, we're going to be able to save lives by intervening before a famine occurs. Now, so most surges of funding happen during an emergency, like you're seeing today. But with AI, we can improve the prediction of where and when these events are more likely to take place and mobilize resources at an earlier stage to improve disaster preparedness and save lives. If you can get ahead of a famine, you can better prepare for what your disaster response is going to be. Here's a second example of disaster response. This one's about improving the reach of humanitarian action through open mapping of vulnerable areas. What you're seeing on the screen here is the Missing Maps platform, where 70,000 volunteers conduct feature identification on satellite photos for areas of high humanitarian need, but low economic ability. The problem here is that there are hundreds of millions of buildings which still require identification. And with the current environment, that would take years to accomplish. By injecting machine learning models, volunteers can now do model verification and correction versus identification, thus speeding up their processing time. Here's one around refugees and displaced peoples. ASAP is the Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project. And ASAP provides legal representation to families who come to the United States fleeing violence. So ASAP is using cognitive services, text analytics, speech analytics to work with volunteers and legal aid organizations to assist families that are fleeing persecution in their home countries. AI helps ASAP track changing court dates, analyzing legal information, and helps them prioritize cases that are in the most urgent need of legal services. We did another project with the same group of folks and Accenture and the United Nations to help refugees get and secure their IDs. When a bad government takes over, the first thing that they do typically is take away a person's identification. Maybe they'll invalidate passports or find some other way to abscond with their IDs. So what we did was created a blockchain project called, I think it was called ID 2020, that helps people get and secure their IDs in the blockchain so that they can never be stolen. All right, the needs of children. Here's one example of an organization you may already know, Operation Smile. Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft lip or a cleft palate and may suffer extreme hardship as a result. So a nonprofit partner, Operation Smile, uses a facial modeling algorithm and Microsoft's imaging tools to improve the surgical outcomes and help children in need of facial surgeries. This next example, human rights, fair trials. The Clooney Foundation sends its members to watch different trials and capture trial details for consolidation and analysis. So we're working with them to implement AI, which is today being used for speech transcription and translation, and helps court monitors and lawyers very quickly digest what has taken place and help them plan for interventions as needed. Okay, the next one. Our next project in the AI for Good suite is AI for Cultural Heritage. That's our $10 million commitment, leveraging the power of AI to empower people and organizations focused on the preservation and enrichment of cultural heritage, which includes places, languages, historical artifacts, etc. We support specific organizations in the same way that we did with humanitarian assistance, with partnerships, investment in AI technology and resources. And we're looking for ways to use technology to help serve as a catalyst for the preservation and the enrichment of cultural heritage around the world. And these are the areas that we're looking at: people, places, languages, and historical artifacts. And let's go through some of these featured projects, and I'll make sure that you get these slides afterwards. This one was really interesting. We worked with the Nobel Prize and used Microsoft Cognitive Services APIs to weave together the biographies of pioneering women scientists through images, archival video footage, even their own words. And it brings their contributions to life, and it helps audiences, particularly young women, engage with these luminaries in a way that's never been possible before. I thought this one was particularly interesting because it uses something called the Translator Hub. With the Translator Hub, we're helping organizations like UIMQROO, which is a university in southwestern Mexico, in the state of Quintana Roo. They were created to provide higher education to the Maya population of the region. And then IQCA, which is an institute in western central Mexico, whose mission is to promote equity and equality of opportunity within the state. So what they're doing here is they're using the power of Microsoft's translator machine learning backend, as well as existing translation models, to create unique and customized translation for endangered languages. So it's using this Translator Hub, which is a powerful tool that organizations have been using for specific translation needs, such as language preservation. It also allows organizations to create domain-specific systems. So think about in terms of industries where it's almost like a language of its own, like the medical field or financial services, and business-specific systems that are customized to the company's internal style and terminology. The one that you're seeing here on the screen, this is being used to preserve Otomi, which is an endangered language from an indigenous central region in Mexico that's only spoken by 33,000 people. It has fewer than 2,000 monolingual speakers remaining. So we're using that customized translation technology and the machine learning algorithms in the background to help. This one is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They make all of their images and data related to public domain artwork in its vast collection available to everybody online. But with 1.5 million works, if they want to expand this reach to the internet connected audience of like 4 billion people worldwide, the museum has to take on the Herculean task of digitizing, classifying, and tagging each work of art in a scalable way. 1.5 million pieces. So they used Microsoft Cognitive Search to examine each artwork and automatically generate the information needed to tag and classify the piece in a fraction of the time. In fact, we had this project called the Art Explorer project that was able to process several 100,000 artworks in this way in a single night. Okay, last one. This is AI for Health, and this is a program of grants to advance health. It's since been repurposed to provide better understanding of COVID-19 and to support researchers on that. But it didn't start that way. It actually started pre-COVID. So this is the idea here. It's got focus areas on discovering health insights to, medical research for prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, health insights to protect against future global health crises, and then health equity to improve access for those who don't equally have access to quality healthcare. So I'm just going to go through a few of these because I know we want to move to the Q&A here. I wanted to start with this one, the Cascadia Data Discovery Institute and Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. The reason I wanted to talk about this one is this is a collaboration around very sensitive healthcare data across a lot of organizations. So the interesting AI aspect of this is the differential privacy, which simultaneously enables researchers and analysts to extract useful insights from data sets containing personal information, and at the same time offering stronger privacy protections. So it works probably the way you would have suspected it would work. It uses statistical noise, additional synthetic data, that's significant enough to protect the privacy of any individual, but small enough that it won't impact the accuracy of the answers extracted by the analysts and researchers. And so you can imagine a number of different use cases where you could use that. This one for the Novartis Foundation was interesting. I didn't realize that leprosy was still a condition that people get. It's a condition that people think has gone away, but there are 200,000 new cases every year and several million people suffering from leprosy. And if untreated, those patients are left with lifelong disabilities and are often stigmatized in their societies. The sad part here, as if that wasn't sad enough, is if a lesion is diagnosed properly, it's actually curable. And it's not only curable, but it's curable without lasting effects. So we worked with the Novartis Foundation to develop a protocol to examine anonymized images that include a high resolution image and metadata capture protocol to process leprosy skin lesion images. And the imagery in the AI code are planned to be made publicly accessible at a later stage to empower leprosy researchers to accelerate research excellence in this field, leading to better outcomes. So the AI algorithm here to diagnose is being used to diagnose the lesions. The AI can be used to accelerate leprosy detection in order to provide treatment options, including those that prevent the patients from developing nerve damage. And then the last example I want to go through is this one. This was actually one of the first Microsoft for Health grantees, Microsoft AI for Health. It was called IRIS, and what it's doing is using early detection systems for diabetic retinopathy in primary care so that healthcare organizations can work to end preventable blindness. So IRIS provides an end-to-end diagnostic solution for early detection of disease. And it's using, what you're seeing here is it's using a portable camera device that can be brought into remote or underserved regions. And then image processing, it processes the image of the eye. And then in that way, IRIS can be used to prevent blindness in people with disabilities. How am I doing on time? VJ, how am I doing on time? All right, I'll assume that I'm doing great.
Oh, you're
you're
five more minutes, Adam.
Good.
Okay, 5 more
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Let me show you this then. If you want to learn more about this, as I mentioned in this slide, go to microsoft.com/AI/AI for good, or just do a Bing search on it. Can you all see my, can you all see the browser right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I wanted to show you the technical resources that we made available. I'm not going to show it to you for all of them. Let me just show you the ones for AI for Earth. We've released as open source just about everything that we do in the AI for Good program. So for example, the APIs, there's APIs for land cover mapping, species identification, camera trap, image processing, and a number of others. We've put out there some of the more common data sets that you would use in some of these geospatial conservation and sustainability topics. We've made the infrastructure available, the AI for Earth API framework, the API platform, and then a VM that combines the GIS tools with the data science tools. And then if you scroll down, you can get open source code for all of the projects that I talked about and a lot of others. And you know, this, I believe this brings you to GitHub, and you'll have the full development environment, and I'll show you that in a second. And then research, some of the research on some of the topics that I discussed so that you can see exactly how they were using FarmBeats to use sensors for precision agriculture. And if I click on one of these, let's click on this one. It'll take me to the GitHub site where I can get access to not only the tools, but I can get access to the notebooks, the information, the methodology, information about the scripts and the code, etc. And there's code examples in all of these. So with that, I think we can open it up to questions. Alvin, was there anything else you want?
Okay. No, I think that was very good. So thank you, Adam, for that wonderful talk. And before, we have a lot of questions, but before we start with questions, if those other people that need to drop off, then you can go ahead and do so. So, yes. Okay, so anyway, I am going to, before we start the questions, I'm going to pop up this polling. So if you have some time, you could answer these questions for feedback from our meeting, and then we'll start with the Q&A. So BJ,
Yes.
are you still on the line?
Yes.
Yes, could you ask the questions that were asked in the chat?
Yeah, so I'm going through the list. The first one is, will the links that are showed be operable?
Yes.
This is from John Whitting, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to put them in. I think I've already put them in a PDF, and they should be operable.
That's good.
Okay.
And then we have, that was one question, and let me see. For some reason, I'm unable to expand this window.
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, I can go. I got it.
I can. You got it. You got it. Otherwise, I can go ahead and do it. So if you have it, BJ. Yeah.
I'm unable to scroll up for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. Let me ask a question then. So one of the questions here is talking about how has Microsoft handled who owns the methods, code, or other intellectual property developed using the grant money. Relatedly, is whoever ends up owning a method under any obligation to license it, make it available on open source, Creative Commons, etc.?
Yeah. So for one thing, to secure the AI for Good grants, your goal has to be to open source it. So, you know, and it's open, to answer your question specifically, it's open sourced under the MIT license. And it's the code for the projects is up on GitHub.
Okay, very good. The next question we have here is that AI for cultural, what is being done regarding indigenous peoples in the Western Hemisphere?
Terrific question. So some of our first use cases around language were for indigenous languages in the Western Hemisphere. So the two examples that I showed on the slide were both in Mexico. There is work being done for indigenous populations in the United States and Canada, and we're looking at projects that go beyond language. You know, what about recreating entire sites or preserving what's left of entire sites? We're looking at that. Not just in the Western Hemisphere, but around the world.
Okay, great. Another question has to do with supporting disaster sites with cryptocurrency. Could that be done with blockchain?
Supporting disaster sites with cryptocurrency. The answer is I don't know what we're doing in that space. But what's interesting about that is one of the issues in disaster response is a government can allocate funding all day long to a disaster, but if a person can't access those funds, then what good is it? You know, they may not be able to access their bank. They may not be able to easily get online. So I talked with a group last week that is basically working with banks and disaster response organizations to get, first of all, to get simple tools like, think of like a Visa gift card as think of you, instead of getting FEMA funding put in your bank, you got to put in a physical Visa gift card. And then she was also talking about leveraging cryptocurrency so that it can be stored and never really taken away. You lose a Visa gift card, you lose a Visa gift card, your cryptocurrency is tied to you. The problem I foresee with that is cryptocurrency is not ubiquitous. I can't go to a farmer's market and pay with cryptocurrency. Well, maybe I could, I don't know.
Okay. John asked a question here regarding about how is AI for humanitarian action helping Puerto Rico, the Nambayo COVID-19 epidemic?
So the way that
That's Navajo.
Yeah, Navajo. Sorry, yes, Navajo.
So I don't believe that they are doing anything with the AI for cultural heritage. However, I know that we're working with Puerto Rico on the COVID response, and we're working with them in 3 or 4 ways. One way is we're making the nonprofits and the first responders, giving them access to very quickly shift to remote working so that they could work together virtually. We're giving them access to our education tools so that students don't have to stop learning while they're under quarantine. And then we're making our technology available to all the frontline workers on the COVID response. That's in Puerto Rico and the rest of the US.
Okay. Another question here.
I'm gonna put a link, I'm gonna put it in the chat to where you can get access to some of those tools if you're interested.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So Zach Sabo asked a question about what are the levels that AI can help the hearing aid industry to do better service to hearing issue? And is it readily available in the market?
Yeah, that is a great use case. So there are a lot of different ways you can work with technologies that assist the hard of hearing. Our chief accessibility officer, her name is Jenny Leigh Fleury. She's very well known in the accessibility space. Her disability, the disability she's living with is that she's deaf, and so these are this is technology that is particularly interesting to her. So there's technology that processes speech signals, so that it makes it easier for. In fact, I could have done this presentation using a project that was out of Microsoft's accessibility team. And I was going to have it on for you and let you watch it. That would, as I'm giving my presentation, it automatically provides subtitles. So if I were a transcription service, I'd be really worried right now about losing my job, because it's better than 96% effective, which means that it surpasses the effectiveness of a person who is hearing and then typing. So there's AI baked into Microsoft Office to provide automatic subtitling. There's AI that's being built into tools that are being used for people who are signers. I don't know specifically what the project is, but you've noticed as you've been watching the governors give their COVID updates, they always have a signer in there. Those signers need tools as well, so we're providing some tools for them. By the way, the guy who does that for Governor Pritzker, I thought he looked familiar. Turns out he went to high school with me. And if you go to Microsoft.com/accessibility, I'll put this in the chat window, you can see what some of the use cases we're working on now are looking like.
Okay, great. And something that's kind of maybe related to that, Adam, is what about Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, Parkinson's disease. So the project that I was showing you about with regard to tremors, that was designed the specific use case was it was designed for people with Parkinson's, where the issue is related to the commands that are sent to the muscles via the central nervous system. So the way that project works is there is a device, I believe it's a band, I'm not sure, that intercepts the commands going from the nervous system to the muscular system, and then sort of cleans it up. If I have a few minutes at the end, I'll show you the video.
Okay. So another question here talks about more about, I guess, maybe ethics or whatever. So it has to do with, doesn't the character of the AI program reflect the character of the person who develops the algorithm?
You want to hear a story about? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. You got to be very, very careful with how you select your data sets and how you build it out. One of our first early AI projects was an absolute failure. This is what, anybody hear of Microsoft Tay, T-A-Y? If you're smiling, then you've heard of it and you know the story already. So Microsoft Tay was a chatbot, and it was designed to get onto Twitter and learn how to be human by interacting with humans. It took it took 24 hours to turn Tay from an empty chatbot to a raging anti-Semite. So, you know, the answer to your question is yes. It can take on it can go very badly. It can go to very bad places. But leave it to Twitter to turn it into a racist in 24 hours.
Okay. This has to do with regarding about pricing and access model. So we want to use Microsoft AI APIs in our own code. Is there like a pricing or access model?
No, to use those APIs, no. To use Azure, there is, and you'd have to go to the site to see what that is. Oh, wait, can I show my screen real quickly?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, sure.
For the person who asked me about Parkinson's, this is the project I was talking about. Tell me when you can see it.
Yes, we can.
We can see it.
Yeah, so it's a watch. And this is what it looks like. It's called Emma because the colleague of mine who came up with this was Emma Lawton. And here it vibrates in a distinctive pattern to disrupt the feedback loop between the brain and the hand. So she's able, I don't know if you can see this, but it'll show you that it's unavailable. If you go to that accessibility site, you'll be able to see the video of what it looks like before and after.
Okay, so maybe Adam, maybe you can send me all those links and I can compile them together and put them together when the recording and give them people an email. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, Adam, did you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I will certainly do that.
Yeah, if you compile all them together, then we can send it out to the people afterwards.
You got it.
Okay, so a question here, not really kind of related, I guess, to AI, but John says here that he sees you have a 5-string banjo. Who is your favorite player or song? Clawhammer.
Well, my favorite Appalachian song, that would be High on the Mountain. And my favorite player, yeah, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat Flatt and Scruggs, right? Earl Scruggs.
Okay.
Agreed.
We have about a minute or so. So let me just finish off with this last question here. So how do you see the AI and ML propagate down to smaller companies instead of being used only at big companies or startups with funding?
Yes. Okay. So I, there's for AI tools, as Alvin mentioned, I'm a student at DePaul in the data science, getting my master's in data science, and I'm always the oldest guy in the class. And in Alvin's class, I was twice the age of the instructor.
Oh
yeah,
the brightest out of all of them.
I forgot about Noam. I saw him last year at the Northlight. The Microsoft has a tool that's called Machine Learning Studio that's basically drag and drop machine learning, and it's so easy to use that my professors won't let me use it because it's a no-code solution. I think the answer to your question about it being used in smaller companies instead of only being used in bigger companies is making low-code and no-code solutions available that leverage the power of AI without all of the coding of AI. I also think that when you bring it into tools that people use every day, like Excel, or things like that, that you start to democratize it. That's the good news. The thing that I worry about is when you start democratizing AI, it makes it a lot harder to get people to conform to the ethics of when and how AI should be used. But that's a discussion for another time.
Okay, and just one final question. It's just a short question. So regarding about the Parkinson's, it's a follow-up. How does your AI work with deep brain stimulation devices?
Yeah, that I have no idea. You know, it really, the device itself doesn't really matter as long as you're getting data out of it. And if you have a way of getting data out of it, then, you know, we can use it and we can do AI with it. You have access to the data, then you can do stuff with it. Of course, you have to have somebody with domain expertise that understands those devices and understands their limitations and understands how to read what's coming out of it, so that you don't have situations where you're applying AI in the wrong space.
Okay, great. So I think, yeah, we're good on time. So thank you everyone for joining tonight. If you haven't already, the poll is still up there if you haven't provided feedback. So I'd like to thank all the members from Mid-America IT Club, Connect, BJ. Thank you, BJ, for helping out together with organizing this meeting. Also, IEEE Computer Society Chicago members, thank you for coming. And also for ACM Chicago members as well. So looks like we had about a total of about 84. I think I saw 84 in total that were in the meeting. So great to hear. Also as well, this recording will be made available. So I will upload it. It will probably be on Vimeo. So I will provide the link afterwards, probably either tonight or tomorrow, but sometime this week. Compile the URL, so I'll get the stuff from Adam, and also slides will be provided as well afterwards. So with that, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Everyone, please stay healthy and safe, and please be on the lookout for our future webinars. So thank you everyone, and have a good night.